Dark Shadows, number 42. VTR date 8/9/66, air 8/23/66. Take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. 130 years ago, the love of a man and a woman built this mansion on the crest of Widow's Hill. Today, fear, distrust, and hatred have almost destroyed it.
Excuse me for disturbing you. I'm looking for Mr. Roger Collins.
He's not at home. I'm his sister.
Oh, are you expecting him?
Oh, sometime later. You can probably find him at the cannery.
No, it's a private matter. I wouldn't want to disturb him there.
Do I know you?
Oh, forgive me. I'm forgetting what little manners I have. My name is Sam Evans, the painter.
Well, I'm the one to ask your pardon. We haven't met in some time.
Well, it's more than 18 years. I've changed since that time.
Won't you come in, Mr. Evans?
You sure I'm not disturbing you?
Not at all. Perhaps I can be of help.
No, I have to see your brother.
Well, I told you he wasn't home. If you'd care to use the phone.
Oh, no. Well, if you're sure he's not at home, then I'll have to confess. I didn't want to see him at all.
Well, who did you want to see?
You, Mrs. Stoddard.
Me?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about your brother.
I don't want to hear any gossip about Roger.
This isn't gossip, it's the truth.
I think I better ask you to come back when my brother's home.
No, I want to talk to you alone.
Mr. Evans, I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave.
Well, even if my staying would help your brother out of some serious trouble?
A short time ago, my brother was almost killed in an automobile accident. No trouble could be as serious as that.
Well, even if it concerned another time, another automobile accident, say, 10 years ago.
What are you after, money?
No, not more money.
Well, then what do you want?
I want to save my soul.
Well, Mr. Evans?
You know, this is the first time I've ever been in this room. It's beautiful.
It's dark and gloomy, and you know it. Please get to the point.
To me, any room that has paintings on the wall is a beautiful room. They're all ancestral portraits, aren't they?
Yes.
Do you know that your husband at one time consulted me about doing his portrait?
Paul?
Yes, I remember it distinctly. He mentioned the size he wanted. It was the same size as that one over the mantelpiece. I believe I have some preliminary sketches. If I could find them, perhaps you'd be interested in seeing them.
No, I don't want to see them.
Strangely enough, someone else asked me recently to do a portrait with the same specifications. Well, that is, he mentioned the size he wanted. It was identical to that one up there.
You don't often find subjects in a small place like Collinsport. Not customers who can afford to pay the price. Is it a local person?
Well, you may know him. He used to be a friend of your brother's.
You must mean Burke Devlin.
Yes.
Did you agree to do the portrait?
Well, Burke is a very persuasive fellow. Besides, he has an interesting face.
Have you had a chance to talk to him at any great length?
Not yet. But if I do the portrait, of course, it will mean several days of sittings.
I wondered if he'd mentioned why he'd come back to Collinsport.
Well, it is his home.
Oh, I know, but a man like that who has a chance to travel, see the world, you wouldn't think he'd be content to settle in a tiny place like this.
Who knows? He may have had the incentive to make money just so he could come back here.
Why?
I suppose he has his reasons.
Mr. Evans, I see people so seldom, I'm afraid I've become a poor hostess. Would you care for a drink?
Well, you sure it's no trouble?
No trouble at all. My brother keeps quite a supply on hand. He likes to drink himself sometimes, you know.
Yes, I know.
Mr. Blair. Will Bronson be joining us? I don't think so. Would you like to order?
No, I'd like a drink. We can talk about business then later. Scotch and water, please.
Same for me.
Well, now, what have you got for me?
Just about everything you asked for, Mr. Devlin.
Good, good.
I think that now we're in a position to start picking up the outstanding notes that are held by the bank.
This will give me complete control of the Collin canneries.
Mr. Devlin, if you want to go further, I imagine you can gain control of any property that the Collins family has an interest in.
I want to go further, Mr. Blair. Much further.
I'll order later. I'm expecting someone to join me.
Is this the full list?
To the best of my knowledge,
Your knowledge had better be perfect. That's what I'm paying you for.
you can check it out for yourself, Mr. Devlin.
Mr. Blair, the first thing I do is check out the people that I hire. Then I leave the details to them. So I don't have to check on this. I've already checked on you.
Satisfactorily, I hope.
You wouldn't be sitting there if it wasn't.
Mr. Devlin, I'm ready to move when you give the word. I think Mr. Harris at the bank is expecting a call from me.
There's no possibility of him connecting you with me.
Not the slightest. All he knows is that I represent a New York investment company interested in acquiring notes and mortgages. When do I start?
Well, there's not much of a rush. Part of the pleasure I get from ruining the Collin enterprises is the anticipation of doing it. You know, Blair, the thing I like about your work is that it's thorough. You never ask any questions.
That's what I'm paid for.
Good.
You must have noticed that the only property on the list that has a mortgage is the big house itself, Collinwood.
I suppose pride prevented them from putting that up for hock.
Not at all. Mr. Harris said that Mrs. Stoddard inquired about borrowing on it, but it's not an asset. More like a liability.
That's interesting.
Who would want it? Big house like that, unless somebody wanted to turn it into a resort motel or something. Not too long ago, Mrs. Stoddard put in a petition for the property tax to be reduced. The reason for it was that half of the house is shut off and not being used.
And was the petition granted, I suppose?
Yes, it was.
And I'm not surprised. That family owns everything there is to own in that town. Except me.
And you want to see that reversed. You want to own everything that's there to own. Except them.
Including them, Mr. Blair. Including them. Now, shall we eat? Excuse me.
Hi. Surprise?
Not really.
Won't you sit down?
Yes, I think I'd better. Well, I think I needed that. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Now, if you're sufficiently refreshed, suppose you tell me why you came here to see me.
Why, I wanted to see the portraits. I've heard so much about them.
Nonsense. I'm not a mind reader, Mr. Evans. What do you really want?
Well, I want to tell you something about your family. Something I learned, you might say, accidentally.
Why come to me with it?
Who else?
Why go to anyone? Why not keep it to yourself?
Well, that's the trouble. I've kept it too long to myself.
Mr. Evans, I hardly know you. I certainly don't know you well enough to discuss family affairs with you.
Oh, please, Mrs.
I had
Stoddard.
no idea what you expected to gain by coming here. I knew you'd sunk low. But I didn't know anyone could sink so low as to try to sell information about someone who had done something foolish.
Well, I didn't
Please
come
don't
here to-
interrupt, Mr. Evans. Come in, Joe.
You said you wanted to see me?
Yes. It's about Carolyn. Have you seen her?
No. But I have a pretty good idea where she might be.
You said you knew where Carolyn went.
Look, Mrs. Stoddard, I don't want to sound like a spy.
I'm worried about her. She left word that she might not be home for dinner.
And you thought she might have had a date with me.
Well, she didn't say exactly where she expected to dine.
Or with whom. All right, I'll tell you. Earlier, she was in the restaurant with Burke Devlin. Later, a friend of mine told me he spotted her in her car on the road to Bangor.
Perhaps she had some shopping to do.
Yeah, maybe Burke Devlin had some shopping to do, too.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I stopped by the hotel before I came up here, and I asked to see him. The hotel clerk told me Mr. Devlin had gone to Bangor for the day.
Do you think they arranged to meet there?
I don't know, Mrs. Stoddard.
I'll speak to Carolyn when she gets home.
If she gets home.
Oh, I don't think it's that bad. Oh, did you see Mr. Malloy?
No, he hasn't been near the plant all day.
That's odd. Oh, Joe, Sam Evans is in there. Would you go in and talk to him, and please close the doors? I'll see if I can get hold of Mr. Malloy.
Sure.
Well, there's a drink in there if you want it.
Oh, don't even suggest it.
It's quite a coincidence you just happened to drop in here.
Well, it could have been a coincidence. I come here a lot.
But today it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I followed you from Collinsport.
Why?
I'm a curious girl.
You certainly are. Very curious.
I wanted to see who you were going to meet.
Did you expect that I had come here for a secret rendezvous with a glamorous, slow-eyed siren? Do I detect a slight note of jealousy?
Why should I care what you do?
That's a good question, but I'm the one who should be asking it. Why should you care what I do?
Well, I told you I simply was curious. You're the one to blame. Acting so mysterious all over town.
There's nothing at all mysterious about my trip to Bangor. I came here to meet my first love. Money. Mr. Blair is my banker. And since you've come this far, you might as well join us for lunch.
No, I don't want to interfere with your business appointment. I thought maybe afterwards.
You'll be surprised how quickly I can wind up my business. Mr. Blair, this is Carolyn Stoddard. Miss Carolyn Collins Stoddard.
How did you know my middle name?
Well, it had to be that. Mr. Blair here is a nefarious old swindler who I am engaged with to defraud your mother out of every single one of her vested interests.
Oh, come off it, Bert. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Blair.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Blair is an old friend of mine from New York who just invited me up here for a drink. How will that do?
I'll buy that.
I thought you would. And I will buy you lunch. Unfortunately, Mr. Blair has another appointment. Don't you, Mr. Blair?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm rather late now. It's a great pleasure, Miss Stoddard.
Bye.
Would you forgive us one moment, Mr. Devlin? Go back to the hotel. I'll call you later. Forgive me for not joining you, but business before pleasure.
Burke, is it possible that you deliberately got rid of him just to be with me?
Why not? You're much prettier than he is.
Oh, but I thought you said that money was your first love. And Mr. Blair must represent money.
Oh, he does, my dear. He does. Mr. Blair represents more money than I'll ever see. And, of course, it's true that I do have a fondness for the stuff, but only to buy pretty things for attractive young girls.
Are you putting me on?
Why on earth would I do that?
Well, I admit I acted like a child following you here. But please don't treat me like one.
Very well, Miss Stoddard. How would you like to be treated?
Oh, well, like a girl you really had a lunch date with.
Splendid, splendid. Now we shall start by ordering a splendid lunch. Since you are a very special girl, you shall have a very special lunch. Salad, baked potato, and steak. Medium rare. How does that sound?
Could I have French fries?
Yes, I forgot. I'm worrying about my age. French fries for the lady, please. Now then, will the witness answer as directed? Where did you have lunch on the afternoon in question, and with whom?
Why, right here, with you.
Is that what you're going to answer when you're questioned by your mother, your uncle, Joe Haskell, and even Victoria Winters?
I'll tell the truth, unless you don't want me to.
Always tell the truth. It's much better in the long run. Now, to continue. How was this lunch date arranged? Did the prisoner insist? Did he drag you there against your will? You'll note, of course, that I am the prisoner.
Oh, well then, Your Honor, I must state that the prisoner did none of those things. I alone am to blame. I confess and throw myself on the mercy of the court.
The court recognizes the sterling qualities of the witness, and as a reward presents her with this sterling silver pen.
Oh, I hope the case is dismissed. Here's your pen back.
That's not mine. I gave it to you.
Oh, that was just in fun.
I never
Here.
do anything in fun. The pen is yours.
No, I couldn't. It must have cost a lot.
Do you think I would give you anything that didn't cost a lot? I insist that you take it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, perhaps you can write down your inmost secrets with it.
Oh, I have no secrets.
Then you are very fortunate.
Maybe I'll use it to write down what happens to me every day. I'll start a diary.
You're right, Carolyn. It might be a good idea to start a diary. Everyone should have a diary from the day that they are born. The pen is yours.
Are you sure Mr. Malloy isn't there somewhere? Oh, very well. If you see him, ask him to call Mrs. Stoddard. It's very important. Thank you.
Did you find Mr. Malloy?
No, I didn't.
Malloy? What do you want with him?
He manages my company. Is there any reason why I shouldn't want to see him?
Oh, no, I guess not. But if he ever tells you anything about me, don't you pay him any attention.
Well, what should he want to tell me about you?
Oh, nothing, I suppose. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know one single thing.
Mr. Evans, I've been very patient. Now, suppose you stop beating around the bush and tell me what you want.
Well,
Do you want me to leave, Mrs. Stoddard?
No, Joe. For Mr. Evans' attitude, it might be well to have a witness to what he's going to say. Well, Mr. Evans?
no. can't do it. I can't.
You know what he was talking about?
No. While you were on the phone, he just stood there. He wouldn't say a word. Do you want me to go after him, bring him back?
No. The worst part of a secret, Joe, is not being able to tell anyone. Sam Evans will come back of his own accord when he can no longer stand keeping it to himself.
Stay tuned for Where the Action Is, next on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production. Number 43, VTR 81066, air 82466. Take one.